Today on the official Marvel podcast, we'll hear from the cast of Marvel Studios' Captain America Brave New World. Danny Ramirez, Carl Lumbly, Shira Haas, and Cap himself, Anthony Mackie.
Sam is a soldier. He's a leader of men. He's a understander of circumstances that he's placed in. He's not a go and punch and blow up and fight his way through situations. He's a thinker.
Plus, we'll catch you up on the supporting characters of the film, including Thaddeus Ross, Joaquin Torres, Isaiah Bradley, Betty Ross, and Samuel Stearns.
And Richard Browning, the inventor of the Gravity Industries jet suit, describes what it's like to fly.
The maneuverability is pretty outrageous. You can take off, do a sort of 180 spin, fly backwards at like 40 miles an hour. And I mean, we are closer to what you see in the superhero kind of films and comics than you'd imagine.
I'm Preeti Chibber.
And I'm Quinn Lamar.
And this is the official Marvel podcast.
Preeti, are you ready for Captain America Brave New World?
So ready. Ticket bought, comfy socks and scarf packed. I'm ready.
Okay, so you're packed. All right, I love that. I like a prepared person. Now, later in this episode, we'll be hearing from the Captain America Brave New World cast.
But first, let's get to know the film's supporting characters a little bit better.
With Marvel Studios' Captain America Brave New World just days away, we thought we'd jog your memory about the prolific and complicated political career of our friend and sometimes foe, Thaddeus Ross, throughout the MCU, especially since he's had a tense relationship with the Avengers.
Arrest them.
To say the least. The character was first introduced as General Ross in Marvel Studios' The Incredible Hulk from 2008. The General and his scientist daughter, Betty Ross, are working with Bruce Banner on an experiment involving gamma radiation, which goes awry and causes Bruce to become an uncontrollable Hulk. Ross spends years in violent pursuit of Bruce, who is on the run trying to learn to control his new alter ego.
As far as I'm concerned, that man's whole body is property of the U.S. Army.
The problem is, his alter ego is the result of a government-led science experiment that Ross wants to complete. The General later reveals that the secret goal of the experiment was to create a super soldier they could weaponize. He knew Bruce and Betty wouldn't cooperate if they knew.
I would never have told him what the project really was.
This lie is a huge betrayal for Betty, and she lets her father know it.
You made him a fugitive to cover your failures and to protect your career. Don't ever speak to me as your daughter again.
It's only because you're my daughter that you're not in handcuffs, too.
Now, working together, Betty and Bruce track down a man named Dr. Samuel Stearns, who believes he may be able to reverse the effects of the gamma radiation and cure Bruce. It works temporarily, but Dr. Stearns has his own motives. He wants to harness the power of Bruce's blood to advance his research.
We could get the Nobel for this.
You don't understand the power of this thing. It is too dangerous. It cannot be controlled.
Dr. Stearns is awestruck by the Hulk and later helps one of General Ross's men become a Hulk-like monster called the Abomination, who terrorizes New York City. In the process, Stearns is knocked to the ground and infected by a gamma blood sample. His head starts pulsing ominously as the Abomination wreaks havoc on Harlem.
Give me a real fight!
After Ross sees the destruction this new monster is causing, he changes his allegiance and supports Bruce, who is hawked out and fighting the Abomination.
Use that thing, soldier! Give him some help! Which one? Help that green one, damn it! Which one do you think cut the other one in half?
That green one, Hulk, saves the city and the Rosses from the Abomination, and it all happens in classic Hulk fashion, with a lot of smashing.
Hulk! Smash!
The next time we see Thaddeus Ross in Marvel Studios' Captain America Civil War, he's become Secretary of State. After witnessing years of superhero mayhem, Secretary Ross's objective is to bring the Avengers under government control.
While a great many people see you as heroes, there are some who would prefer the word vigilantes.
And what word would you use, Mr. Secretary?
How about dangerous?
He brings a proposal to the Avengers.
But I think we have a solution. The Sokovia Accords, approved by 117 countries, it states that the Avengers shall no longer be a private organization. Instead, they'll operate under the supervision of a United Nations panel only when and if that panel deems it necessary.
This proposal doesn't go over all that well. While some Avengers are willing to cooperate, others are concerned about what government oversight would mean for their mission. This leads to the titular civil war between the factions, and the Avengers who refuse to sign become enemies of the state. Ross even hunts Black Widow personally, as revealed in Marvel Studios' Black Widow.
From my vantage point, it's the federal fugitive
who's desperate.
When the group sets aside their differences to join forces against Thanos in Marvel Studios' Avengers Infinity War, they come face to face with Ross, and he isn't handing out pardons.
The world's on fire. And you think all's forgiven?
Ultimately, it takes the full might of the Avengers to defeat Thanos and save the world. And some of our heroes lose their lives in the process. At Tony Stark's heartbreaking funeral, we see Secretary Ross in attendance paying his respects. Does this mean that he and the Avengers are finally on the same page? After all, he's returned to the MCU as President Ross. Maybe he's ready to bury the hatchet.
Work with me, Sam. The country needs Captain America.
And Ross isn't the only character returning in Captain America: Brave New World. We'll see the return of Joaquin Torres, a young first lieutenant in the Air Force who meets Sam Wilson on a rescue mission in Marvel Studios' The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He got his first taste of joining a superhero team running missions alongside Sam and Bucky Barnes. He played a huge role in stopping an underground super soldier group and saving the world.
At the end of the series, as Sam accepts the mantle of Captain America, he leaves his Falcon suit with Joaquin.
Thanks, Torres.
For sure. Wait, yo, you forgot the wings.
Keep them.
And also from the series, there's Isaiah Bradley, a Black veteran who received an early version of the super soldier serum way back in the 1940s.
You know what they did to me for being a hero?
Isaiah was jailed and experimented on for 30 years while the government tried to learn why the super soldier serum succeeded on him.
They were worried my story might get out. So they erased me, my history. But they've been doing that for 500 years.
When Sam meets him, Isaiah is understandably hurt and angry at the decades of injustice he faced. After Sam becomes Captain America, he brings Isaiah to the Smithsonian, where an exhibit is on display presenting the stories of Isaiah and the other soldiers like him who were victims of the super soldier experiment.
Now they'll never forget what you did for this country.
After years in hiding, Isaiah is finally honored and celebrated for everything he endured. He's able to see Sam Wilson become Captain America after believing for years that the nation would never accept a Black man as their patriotic hero.
We built this country, bled for it. I'm not gonna let anybody tell me I can't fight for it. Not after what everybody before me went through.
I truly can't wait to see these characters again in Captain America: Brave New World. You can only see it in theaters February 14th. Tickets are on sale now.
In the meantime, you can watch The Incredible Hulk, Captain America: Civil War, Avengers: Infinity War, Black Widow, and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier right now on Disney+. With the release of Captain America: Brave New World this week, we got a chance to hear from the film's stars, including Danny Ramirez, Shira Haas, Carl Lumbly, and Captain America himself, Anthony Mackie.
It's wild to think that Anthony Mackie has been in the MCU for over a decade now. His debut as Sam Wilson back in Captain America: The Winter Soldier feels so recent.
Right? And even though he's appeared in 7 other MCU projects since, Captain America: Brave New World marks the first time Anthony Mackie takes center stage in the film as Captain America. But if you'd asked 2014 Mackie whether he thought he'd ever wield a shield, his answer might surprise you.
No, when I was first brought on, there were no early discussions whatsoever. I didn't even know what character I was playing. I was just called in for an interview, and they asked me if I would be interested in being a part of one of their movies and play a character who they couldn't tell me who the character was, but if they did offer it to me, would I do it? And, you know, I love the franchise. I love the idea of, it felt like the way old school comic book movies used to be, where, you know, characters didn't take themselves too seriously, and they lived in just a fantastic aspect of reality. And I always enjoyed that. So to be able to do something like that would be a great opportunity to expand and play different types of characters.
And here's what Anthony had to say after learning he'd be taking up the mantle of Captain America.
I was blown away. I've been in this business 22 years, and I studied 11 years before those 22 years to master my craft. I've seen actors come, I've seen actors go, and I've seen so many actors be put in a position to be stars, and they have nothing on their resume. So, that being said, being a part of the Marvel Universe and being handed the shield as Captain America means more to me than I think it would mean to anybody else, because I've been through more and I've seen more in this business. I've worked with more people. I've been reminded enough what I am and what I'm not about this business. So to be given the opportunity to play Captain America means a lot. And race aside, sex aside, it just means a lot to me, because I put a lot of time and a lot of energy into what and who I am today. I didn't run to LA and say, make me famous. I went and studied my craft. I did my theater. I did my independent films. So it means a lot. It means a lot. And, it's cool to say that all that hard work paid off and nobody can take it away from me. So it's fun. It's very personal. It's exciting for, my kids to be able to see me as Captain America. Aside from everything else, nothing else matters. I would do this for free, just for the opportunity for my kids to see me as Captain America.
Anthony Mackie isn't just taking over the role of Captain America. He's redefining it, making the character his own, and showing what the shield means to Sam Wilson.
Here's Anthony breaking down how Sam's Cap differs from Steve Rogers.
They're very different. Sam is very different, very interesting from the comic book Sam to the movie Sam. Sam, it's very important to me to remember that Sam is a soldier first. He's a counselor of soldiers. He's a leader of men. He's a understander of circumstances that he's placed in. He's not a go and punch and blow up and fight his way through situations. He's a thinker. So for him and Steve Rogers, they're very different because he's a superhero that has no superpowers. His wit and his charm are his superpowers. His heart is a superpower. So just the idea of just sheer ability with super serum and not makes him completely different than Steve.
As Anthony mentioned, Sam doesn't have the super soldier serum running through his veins. That's what makes him such a grounded and relatable hero.
Sam's humanity shines through and it sets him apart.
I think because Sam is every guy's everyday guy. He was a regular guy picked off the street, and he found himself in a room with a bunch of superheroes. And in Captain America Winter Soldier, he's like, Captain America needs my help. So that's amazing, So him being the eyes and ears of every regular person that would be thrust into this universe and this world, I think means a lot to audiences, and that makes him easily relatable.
It's only fitting then that Sam Wilson's story is just as grounded.
The story being told is very grounded and stays in line with the Captain America universe. I think you have the MCU that's evolved into what it is, and I think you have the Captain America universe that's very espionage, like more of a realistic approach to telling a story and, human being to superhero contact as opposed to superhero to fantastical contact. When you look at the Captain America through line, you can see yourself in that through line because it's actual and intact with where we are today.
Sam Wilson might be taking over the Captain America mantle, but let's not forget his partner in crime fighting, Joaquin Torres, the all-new Falcon, played by Danny Ramirez. Here's Anthony Mackie on working with Danny.
For this to be Danny's first Marvel movie and the way he handles himself on set and with everyone is really interesting and amazing. I think I won't even diminish it by saying there's a childlike goofiness to him. I think there's a specific way that he handles Joaquin and allows Joaquin to just be himself in the eyes of the world around him that reflects a lot of the beats and angles that Sam Wilson had in Captain America Winter Soldier, when this world just brings you in and all of a sudden you're a part of it. For him to build now to where he's in the sky with me, I think Danny really brings a fun, youthful exuberance to that character that helps the two of them, Falcon and Captain America, make it through those missions as a kindred spirit. So it's great to have him around.
Danny Ramirez had his own take on how Joaquin's relationship with Sam plays out on screen.
Feels like a little brother, big brother, except little brother's trying to do more than he's capable of at some points. But looking at where Joaquin is, I'm like, I've been there before. And especially in a dynamic where there's a mentor and you're the mentee, and there's times where you're like, I got this, don't worry. Like, I heard what you said, only had to say it one time, and then you go ahead and think you're doing it right and you mess up. But yeah, it's a little brother and a big brother. It's a mentor, mentee. It's two people that through 2 years of work, or more than 2 years of work that they've not been doing, they have this bond of just like, I think they see each other in themselves, like that. Sam sees Joaquin, he's like, that's the younger version in some, like, of me that, like, I've navigated the things he's trying to navigate through right now. And I look at Sam as someone aspirationally, like, I want to be where he's at right now. I think I followed his entire career, and so it is like working and meeting your heroes and getting to work with them.
And what's cool is how that bond between Joaquin and Sam mirrors the camaraderie between Danny and Anthony in real life.
I think the things I'm learning most about him, because everyone comes from different schools of thought when it comes to their craft and to why they do what they do. I think the magic that I've seen, and like I've been blessed to work with a lot of really amazing people, has been Anthony's superpower is like how he's able to lead a room and give that permission to everyone else to like be their authentic selves, because you're seeing him fully being his authentic self, just like straight up. And so taking that from him as like one of the most valuable lessons in my career, I think is something that then I'll be able to take wherever I go and then be able to gauge that and see the impact that has.
The stakes couldn't be higher for our heroes. Not only do they have to live up to their respective legacies as Captain America and Falcon, but they're also facing major villains like Red Hulk and Samuel Stearns, aka the leader, and maybe even their own doubts.
Oh, and they're facing everything. They're facing systems. They're facing so many things within themselves, cognitive dissonance as to whether or not they're capable of doing the job or not. I find like that right now, the really interesting thing that we're navigating is, on paper is one thing, but then seeing Anthony carry this pressure and this responsibility, capturing that and shooting that and building the film around what that is, I think is going to be incredibly powerful and entertaining. And so far, it's been interesting to see Anthony tap into that.
But how does Captain America Brave New World stack up in tone? According to Danny, it's all about striking a balance between realism and the classic MCU spectacle.
So I think it's just slice of life, trusting that everything we're saying is an absolute truth in this world. There's an abundance of realism outside of like things that are fantastical. And I think that's really exciting. I think it's cool there's obviously a couple big set pieces that are going to be freaking awesome. But outside of that, there's so many like relational dynamics that really ground the film in the cognitive dissonance that Sam is going through in this whole thing, and trying to grapple with what's happened with Isaiah and trying to prove his innocence. I think there's so much that parallels to like a really hyper grounded realism.
Delivering all of that came with a ton of intense preparation and training for Danny.
Preparing for this role, it was the first time that I was given a little bit of runway, and so I was like, all right, what are we going to do here? How are we going to set the foundation of Joaquin and everything that he's probably learned in training in the Air Force and then these 2 years with Sam. And so I got to do boxing training, Muay Thai, some flipping and tricking for like stunts. Then I got and had a personal trainer that I was like, all right, well, if he's been doing this for 2 years, like he's got to be at a certain specific shape. And so I worked with Nick Shimanek, who is a NFL trainer. So I was like, let me just make him so well-rounded and like, but still at the early stages, and just like do 2-a-days. And so I was doing 2-a-days for 3 months. First time I had a nutritionist. And so I was like, I got a chance to be an athlete. And so I'm going to take it and run with it.
Shira Haas also joins Captain America Brave New World as Ruth Batsaroff, a high-ranking U.S. government official who has the trust of President Ross. Shira shared what it was like for her to prepare for such an intense role.
First, it was personal training, just getting a bit stronger. And then it was really the stunt training, which was also kind of like a daily basics. And it was really important for me to do as much as I can, as much as possible. And I had the most amazing, really, teachers and people that helped me with that. And it was pure fun.
For Shira, though, there's one standout moment from the movie that's left a lasting impression.
One of the coolest moments is in the White House, I think. That it's also kind of like the first moments that we meet also Ruth, and we understand that she's very, very strong. And this is the first time that we see it, and she's really kicking ass there and kind of like saving the situation in a way. And it was also very important for me because it's just the first time that you see how strong she is and who is she. And it's supposed to make you feel very curious about this new character that's joining the MCU. And it was such an amazing experience.
Beyond that moment, Shira says there's a lot for fans to get excited about in Captain America: Brave New World.
You have everything, I think, in this movie. You have new characters that you're getting to know for the first time. You have characters from the past that are suddenly coming back. You have the characters that you already know, and there are crazy events that are happening. And also the movie itself is so magnificent and so well written and so well made, but I think it's also so special because it does affect and will affect a lot the future of MCU.
The film introduces new characters like Ruth, but it also brings back some familiar faces like Isaiah Bradley, a veteran and survivor of the super soldier serum trials.
We last saw Isaiah in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but this time he plays a much more public role. Here's Carl Lumbly, who plays Isaiah.
Isaiah has come from a place of disconnection to a place of connection. He was hiding out, and Sam Wilson brought him into the public eye and gave him his due by essentially having the United States government recognize him and giving him a statue to commemorate his involvement in the pursuit of freedom. And so he is back in the world in a way he did not expect and proud to be.
Isaiah's relationship with Sam Wilson has also evolved since we last saw him, and according to Carl, it's an incredibly rewarding arc.
Isaiah is so proud of Sam being Captain America. Isaiah came out of an era where Steve Rogers was Captain America, and the dynamic between Isaiah and Steve Rogers was complicated. Sam becoming Captain America, there's no bigger fan, not simply for what he did for Isaiah, but also for what he represented. And James Baldwin had a quote once when he was in San Francisco, and he was addressing a group of young black men who said there will never be a black president. And he said, he predicted, there will be a black president, but it will be a different America. And I think Sam represents a Captain America for the America that exists now, an America looking forward, an America actually addressing and capturing the promise and running with it. So Isaiah could not be more proud because he comes from a generation that doesn't have the same shackles on it that Isaiah's did. And Isaiah has lived through a few iterations of those shackles. It's almost impossible to imagine another time. And he didn't imagine another time. He didn't see another possibility until Sam introduced him to it. And Sam is a very different operative in this world. Sam has agency. And Sam and his generation are saying, we will make a future that represents what we are living. A future based on reality and a future based on promise. So he's in awe of Sam, and he's also, I was going to say paternal, but I suppose the difference in age is maybe a little more grandfatherly.
With characters like Sam Wilson redefining what it means to be Cap, Isaiah Bradley finding his place in this new era, and fresh faces like Ruth Basaroff joining the fray, Captain America: Brave New World promises to deliver an action-packed blend of legacy and innovation.
So be sure to check it out for yourself. Captain America: Brave New World is only in theaters February 14th. I wish I could fly like the Falcon. You know how much money I'd save on flights?
Well, then I have good news for you, Preeti. A jet engine powered flying suit actually exists.
What? How do I not have it? That's not fair. I need to be one step closer to not having to take my shoes off at the security checkpoint.
Well, until then, fellow host of the official Marvel podcast, Ray Lowe, spoke with Richard Browning, the inventor of the Gravity Industries jet suit. This man is actually flying. Ray, take it away.
I'm joined by Richard Browning. It's very exciting to be chatting with you. Can you tell us exactly what it is that you do?
So I'm the founder, and I often call myself the chief test pilot from Gravity Industries. And we, over the last 8 years, are quite well known around the world for designing, building and flying what we call a jet suit, which is a jet engine powered flying suit. And we've flown up mountains to rescue people in mountain rescue scenarios. We've flown military special forces onto boats and across places like minefields in Ukraine. So we are very much, I suppose, walking the walk in some people's eyes of being a real life kind of superhero creation, but it's a proper big grown up business now as well.
What made you interested in experimenting with human propulsion to begin with?
It was an amalgamation of things. So I actually had a relatively normal corporate kind of existence before then. I was 16 years a commodity trader in London, but I spent some time in the British military, in the Royal Marines, and I also had a whole family that came from the world of aviation and engineering. So actually, in hindsight, I had enough knowledge about aviation and engineering. And then I suppose also I've always been afflicted by this desire to just question and challenge and wonder what might be possible.
How would you best describe the jet suit?
So firstly, it's like a backpack you put on your back. That's got some of the fuel in it, and it's got some engines in the back. So that sort of lifts you like a backpack. And then on each arm, you have a sort of gauntlet, like a big glove. And either side of that glove is another little jet engine. So because there's one either side of each arm, the net thrust feels just like you're leaning on a surface, like you're leaning on a table. And because you've got that ability to lean with both arms and the rear is lifting you from the back, it produces thrust in almost like a tripod. It's like you're a three-legged stool. And that's a very stable structure. And if you bring your arms in, you're bringing the legs of the tripod together and you rise. And if you flare them out, then you sink back down again. And all the rest of the maneuverability is as mysterious and yet intuitive as it is to ski or snowboard or surf or water ski or ride a bike. Your brain that can handle you hopping around on one leg with your eyes closed absolutely is capable of managing that three-legged tripod of support. And it just becomes a completely unconscious part of you within minutes if you let it happen, using our safety tether to let you safely learn. It is genuinely this sort of augmentation of human balance. You really end up just feeling like you're leaning on a surface.
What kind of situations, I guess, could you imagine a jet suit being useful?
If you want to get a medic up a mountain because somebody's had a cardiac arrest, we've flown up mountains that take hours to walk up. And in conditions that grounded search and rescue helicopters, we've got there in minutes. I mean, it's been profound, the effect we can have.
So in the Marvel universe, Captain America's flight suit, they're sometimes made of titanium ribbing and mylar. Sometimes it's maybe vibranium from Wakanda. I mean, we have so many different versions, and a lot of these materials aren't necessarily real. But are there any similarities between Captain America's wings and your flight suit?
A couple of things. So we 3D print everything that we make, mostly, in terms of the jet suit. We did start out 3D printing in aluminium and then titanium, actually. Titanium is a very cool, sexy thing to print with. The sad reality, which maybe Captain America should bear in mind, is that when you have an impact with titanium's fine. It's the human attached to the titanium which then has all the transfer of energy. So we learned quite early on that it hurts quite a lot more crashing in a titanium structure than it does something that's a bit more bendy. So we 3D printed polypropylene now. It's the same stuff you make like carrier bags, shopping bags out of. But when it's very thick, it's a nice, warm, slightly flexible, almost human feeling kind of polymer. But yes, there is a link with the titanium. I'd also say we went through a phase of learning how to fly with wings as well. So the idea was that if you take off by launching with the engines, as you go faster and faster, your body flattens out and you almost go horizontal. we experimented with a number of different wing systems, because if you could start generating lift with the wings, you can be a lot more efficient and fly a lot faster. So the only reason we backed off on that is because we set like an 85 mile an hour speed record. It's a Guinness World Record out there.
Right. Yeah.
And it just started to get kind of increasingly dangerous, even over water, because we don't bounce quite as well as superheroes seem to bounce. Yes, I always love the way they can hit the ground so hard and get back up and deliver a line. Yeah. Yes, indeed.
All right. In the comics, we see Cap kind of zipping around, dodging lasers, supervillains, you name it. In real life, we touched on this a little bit, but what kind of maneuverability does the flight suit really offer?
So the maneuverability is pretty outrageous. So you can take off, do a sort of 180 spin, fly backwards at like 40 miles an hour, crack alongside a car, land on a car, take back off again. I mean, we've done things like if you put a little drinking straw in your mouth and then fly up to somebody holding like a can of choose your fizzy drink. And we've been able to actually fly like a hummingbird and lower the straw with your mouth into the hole, drink, and then fly back out. And then, if you want to prove you've actually done it, squirt the drink back out again through the straw. So, I mean, that's crazy. You are being within a quarter of an inch accurate there in free space, managing 2,000 horsepower thrust. And I can't tell you how you do it, but nothing goes through your brain when you're doing it. You just look at the target. Yeah, we are closer to what you see in the superhero, kind of films and comics than you'd imagine. And it's all down to human balance.
So what do you think this technology will be in 20 years? What does the future, I suppose, of even just humans in flight in general look like?
If we end up with super energy dense energy storage better than lithium batteries, then we've built an electric version of this. And the only thing that made it kind of ridiculous, and it did fly, was that the batteries weighed more than the pilot. Whereas if you go and condense this down to a bit more of as Tony Stark level of energy density, which doesn't exist, but everybody's working on it, then that's not impossible. So never say never.
I love this. Well, it was great speaking with you today. Thank you for being here.
Not only did the Spider-Man comics bring us one of Marvel's most beloved superheroes, they also introduced a legendary collection of supervillains. On this day in 1963, we first met one of those early villains, the Vulture, an inventor turned thief who designed a suit he could fly around and commit crimes in. 62 years ago, in Amazing Spider-Man #2, written by Stan Lee, an elderly man with green wings appears out of the sky, snatching a businessman's briefcase as the introduction to decades of criminal activity and becoming one of Spider-Man's most recurring and lethal foes. The Vulture also appears in the film Spider-Man Homecoming, played by Michael Keaton. It's hard to imagine what the last 60 years of Spider-Man would have looked like without him, and we can't wait to see what kind of trouble he'll get up to in the future. Spider-Man Homecoming is available to stream on Disney+.
Next week on the Official Marvel Podcast, we'll hear from the Captain America Brave New World writers Malcolm Spellman and Dalen Musson, as well as the production designer Ramsey Avery, executive producer Charles Neuwirth, and producer Kevin Feige.
This film not just reintroduces a new Captain America, it introduces for the first time a new Falcon, and that is Joaquin Torres. And it will be exciting to see Sam in that new dynamic with Joaquin.
That's it for this episode. If you haven't already, make sure to leave us a review wherever you're listening. It helps other Marvel fans find the show.
Yes, and make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an episode.
This episode was hosted by Preeti Chibber and myself, Quinn Lamar, featuring Ray Lowe.
Our producers are Jasmine Estrada and Anita Flores.
With help from Senior Manager of Audio Production and Development Brad Barton and Production Manager Emily Godfrey.
Mixed by Ry Dorsey.
Theme music by Ida Akbal.
Executive producers are Larissa Rosen and Jesse Berger.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.